Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh, yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the morning grind. Welcome to the office. I'm Heath. I'm trying to get the War of Art up. I don't understand why iBooks has such a problem bringing up a book. Okay, I think I may have it. Okay, all right. So we're actually good there. All right. How's everybody this morning? I'm doing much better this morning than I was yesterday. I'm doing very well. I was actually up early yesterday. I was up early this morning. I was up early yesterday. I was feeling really good yesterday morning. I woke up really early. I started reading Brianna's book, The City of Reckoning. So I got started reading a book, and then I spent maybe an hour or two working on stuff, and then I just completely crashed, like completely. So I guess everything caught up with me. And, ordinarily that's on Wednesday after the late night of the table talk, but I guess I was running on adrenaline or something. So it might be the case that it's with the way things are changing, we might have to get on a different schedule for the morning grind. I've still got to think about that. There will be no morning grind tomorrow, by the way. which doesn't have anything to do with exhaustion. But tomorrow, my family is going to an art show. We've got an art show to go to. We got to be there early tomorrow. And then we're going to have lunch and play board games after the art show. So I will be gone all tomorrow. So I will not be here for the morning grind tomorrow. Today, I thought that, hey, for our topic, I thought that we'd take a look at this. This is the World of Ice and Fire. It kind of goes with the theme of world building that we talked about on Tuesday. And I realized I basically have not looked at this book at all. I got this book, and probably that's about as much as I've looked at it at all since I just opened it up right here. I don't know what's in it because I realized when I bought it that I bought the wrong thing. I was trying to buy the Song of Ice and Fire book because that's when the TV show was on. And I was like, I want to get this because I was enjoying the TV show, and I guess I wasn't paying attention to what I was ordering, and I got this. It looks cool, but I hadn't even opened it up because I was like, oh, this is the wrong thing. So let's see here. I was trying to get my coffee this morning. Oh, so then I woke up this morning, also read some in Brianna's City of Reckoning, and then was working on Table Talk for about 3.5 hours, getting clips and things ready. And then also for tomorrow, because I will be gone all day tomorrow. So I was going to get my coffee, but actually I already drank it. I was going to pick up the coffee pot, and I guess this morning, after having been up early, which is, I have not been up in so long. I thought yesterday was starting really well. Maybe this is getting back on the track of things and in the habit of things. We will see. All right, drank my coffee. So good morning, James. Good morning, Lynn. Good morning. James says, the more Game of Thrones I read, the more Martin incorporated a more loose approach to magic, the less I liked it. And that's the least of the umbrage I take with his story. Did they ever say why that one guy with the flaming sword couldn't die? If they did, I don't remember. Sable says, I stopped reading before that was revealed, if it ever was. He does seem to, and it gets worse as as the books go on. Hey, Matt, good morning. Good to see you. I think he brought Cat back to life at the end of the one book, and that's the one that I gave up after. I wouldn't beyond that. Which one is that? I thought that was a really great scene. People who die murdered at their wedding and murdered at their wedding influenced the story. No more are footnotes, not entire chapters. So much time was spent on Rob to result in a grand waste of time. Let's see. There's something on my computer monitor. Lynn says, I've never read any of George R.R. Martin's works, and what I know of Game of Thrones comes from cultural osmosis. That, and I watched the very last episode of the television adaptation. You watched the very last episode? I enjoyed like first 3 or 4 seasons, especially of the television adaptation. Of course, that one went downhill too, but when it was going strong, I thought it was going very strong. Oh, Sable says, I think the Game of Thrones is the biggest bait and switch that's been performed on the cultural zeitgeist in a long time. The war of art has transitioned into the war of art. The war of art. Yes, it had. Okay, I get it now. Yes. And yeah, so I've got to continue that too. I was going to take a look at some of the different projects that we had going on and their status because I've got to get some. So next up, now that I have the Christmas Story on with 5 different beta readers at the moment. Actually, my brother already got me back some comments. And he's always one of the ones who calls me back from violence. He said that the end was too violent. It went over the top. So he called me back from it. So I'm interested to know what other people say. But that could be the case. I mean, he said it was a difficult part to read. And it is. It was also a difficult part to write. So we'll see. But my instinct when I go from where dreams come from when I go to where from dreams come, yeah, I tend to go dark and violent. So that's all right. But that's what beta's reading for. James says I started the Dark Goddess screenplay. So that's Brianna's screenplay. We'll talk about that. We didn't get a chance. I was going to talk with her last. Was that Wednesday? Was that yesterday? No. Yeah, I guess Wednesday. Yeah, it was. I guess it was Wednesday. But she said she had to spend all of her social energy and so canceled. So we'll talk again on Tuesday. I've never seen a cultural phenomenon disappear from public discourse as quickly and as completely as after the last Game of Thrones episode air. Yeah, it's true. Now, Avatar does it. People talk about Avatar being something that makes a lot of money but has no cultural influence, which is weird. But yeah, I mean, it just vanished. Now, I'm a big fan of this, the House of the Dragon. I gave it another chance, and they did well, I think. I started reading. See, I also got. Right, this over here. Faraway Bird is incoming. Faraway Bird is Doug's. But I mean, look at these. I got so much reading to do. It's been a long time since I've read fiction, and now everybody's got these massive books to read. Here's this one just came in yesterday. This is Cameron's book, so we want to take a look at Cameron's book as well. It's a thick one. It's a thick one. This is Mother of the Believers. And how many pages is this? 500, 530, something like that. So I got Mother of Believers as well. So, man, there's a lot. But look who is at the top. I forgot about this. Look who is at the top of Cameron's Mother of Believers. Right here at the top. Superbly written, brilliantly realized, Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield. That's the author of The War of Art. Of course. So I was surprised when, he told me that. Cameron had told me a long time ago that he'd gotten Stephen Pressfield to write that blurb for it. So that's cool. So, but that's another big book to read. And so that's 3. There's a lot of reading, a lot of fiction reading to do. Good morning, Robert. Good morning. And good morning, BGD. Good morning. Robert says, party management system complete. Next up, armor class per character. All characters start at 10 plus armor and level modifiers. When's the next table talk? Star Trek 6 Part 2. It's probably, it's going to be a little while. We could do it on Tuesday. I got to ask Doug about that, but it may be that we do Black Hawk Down on Tuesday because of the 30th anniversary of the battle that just passed. And I've got to confirm after we get off of the morning grind if we want to talk about Ahsoka Sunday night with Retro Nerd Girl. If so, I'll then reach out to her. Reach out to Doug, confirm he wants to do it. If so, reach out to Retro Nerd Girl and we should see. All right, let's see here. The difficult parts are the best part. That's where the white hot center is. Well, BGD says if your violence is over the top, it's probably just about perfect. Let's see. All right, let's bring up the book, breathe and sip, and do our reading, and then take a look and see what this world book is. Let's see. Share screen. So I had to go with some Diet Coke this morning because I had already drunk all of my coffee. So I've got that. Okay. So here we go. Let's breathe and sip. Grab your favorite drink. Let's take care of our mental health this morning. 2 deep breaths in, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. Here we go. Deep inhales. And sip. Okay. All right. Reading from the War of Art about resistance. Resistance is everything that stops us from being everything that we can be, especially with regard to our creative production. So this is by Stephen Pressfield. Resistance and fundamentalism. The artist and the fundamentalist both confront the same issue. the mystery of the existence as individuals. Each asks the same question: who am I? Why am I here? What is the meaning of my life? At more primitive stages of evolution, humanity didn't have to deal with such questions. In the states of savagery, of barbarism, in nomadic culture, medieval society, in the tribe and the clan, one's position was fixed by the commandments of the community. It was only with the advent of modernity, starting with the ancient Greeks, with the birth of freedom and with the individual, that such matters ascended to the fore. These are not easy questions. Who am I? Why am I here? They're not easy because the human being isn't wired to function as an individual. We're wired tribally, to act as part of our group. Our psyches are programmed by millions of years of hunter-gatherer evolution. We know what the clan is. We know how to fit into the band and the tribe. What we don't know is how to be alone. We don't know how to be free individuals. The artist and the fundamentalist, well, this is a long passage, the longest one yet. The artist and the fundamentalist arise from societies at different stages of development. The artist is the advanced model. His culture possesses affluence, stability, though enough excess of resources to permit the luxury of self-examination. The artist is grounded in freedom. He's not afraid of it. He is lucky. He was born in the right place. He has a core of self-confidence, a hope for the future. He believes in progress and evolution. His faith is that humankind is advancing, however haltingly and imperfect, toward a better world. The fundamentalist entertains no such notion. In his view, humanity has fallen from a higher state. The truth is not out there waiting for revelation. It has been revealed. The world of God has been spoken and recorded by his prophet, be he Jesus, Muhammad, or Karl Marx. Fundamentalism is the philosophy of the powerless, the conquered, the displaced, and dispossessed. Its spawning ground is the wreckage of political and military defeat, as Hebrew fundamentalism arose during the Babylonian captivity, as white Christian fundamentalism appeared in the American South during Reconstruction, and the notion of the master race evolved in Germany following World War I. In such desperate times, the vanquished race would perish without a doctrine that restored hope and pride. Islamic fundamentalism ascends from the same landscape of despair and possesses the same tremendous and potent appeal. What exactly is despair? It is the despair of freedom, the dislocation and emasculation experienced by the individual cut free from the familiar and comforting structures of the tribe and clan, the village and the family. It is the state of modern life. The fundamentalist, or more accurately, the beleaguered individual who comes to embrace fundamentalism, cannot stand freedom. He cannot find his way into the future, so he retreats to the past. He returns in imagination to the glory days of his race and seeks to reconstitute both them and himself in their purer, more virtuous light. He gets back to basics, to fundamentals. Fundamentalism and art are mutually exclusive. There's no such thing as fundamentalist art. This does not mean that the fundamentalist is not creative. Rather, his creativity is inverted. He creates destruction. Even the structures he builds, the schools and networks of organization, are dedicated to annihilation of his enemies and of himself. But the fundamentalist reserves his greatest creativity for the fashioning of Satan, the image of his foe, in opposition to that which he defines and gives meaning to his own life. Like the artist, the fundamentalist experiences resistance. He experiences it as temptation to sin. Resistance to the fundamentalist is the call of the evil one seeking to seduce him from his virtue. The fundamentalist is consumed with Satan, whom he loves as he loves death. Is it coincidence that the suicide bombers of the World Trade Center frequented strip clubs during their training, or are they conceived of as a reward, as a squadron of virgin brides, and the license to ravage them in the flesh pots of heaven? The fundamentalist hates and fears women because he sees them as vessels of Satan, temptresses like Delilah, who seduced Samson from his power. To combat the call of sin, i.e. resistance. Oh, look. Well, actually, here he is talking about resistance and sin. Didn't I say that if I were to create a religion, instead of sin, we would just have resistance? The fundamentalist plunges either into action or into the study of sacred texts. He loses himself in these, much as the artist does in the process of creation. The difference is that while one looks forward, hoping to create a better world, the other looks backward, seeking to return to a purer world from which he and all have fallen. The humanist believes that humankind, as individuals, is called upon to co-create the world with God. This is why he values human life so highly. In his view, things do progress. Life does evolve. Each individual has value, at least potentially, in advancing the cause. The fundamentalist cannot conceive of this. In his society, dissent is not just crime, but apostasy. It is heresy, transgression against God himself. When fundamentalism wins, the world enters a dark age. Yet still I can't condemn one who was drawn to this philosophy. I consider my own inner journey, the advantages I've had of education, affluence, family support, health, and the blind good luck to be born an American, and still I have learned to exist as an autonomous individual. Still I have learned to exist as an autonomous individual. If indeed I have, only by a whisker, and at a cost that I would hate to have to reckon up. If indeed he has learned that, only by a whisker. It may be the human race is not ready for freedom. The air of liberty may be too rarefied for us to breathe. Certainly, I wouldn't be writing this book on this subject if living with freedom were easy. The paradox seems to be, as Socrates demonstrated long ago, that the truly free individual is free only to the extent of his self-mastery, while those who are not governed themselves are condemned to find masters. Those who would not govern themselves are condemned to find masters to govern over them. All right. So we'll start there tomorrow. I was saying I was going to, we need to take a look. We're going to do a project check-in because now that I've got my book to the beta reading, I got called off by the beta reading as I was thinking about what my brother said. But I've got some out for beta reading. I've got to finish the edit of, first, actually, I've got to make sure that all of the marketing is going for the relaunch of Goodnight Sword because it's time to go ahead and do that. And then also I started building out all of the necessary pages, like Kickstarter pages and such, for the Christmas story. I did start that yesterday. So those are going. Those are now in process. Kind of making a bit of a transition from the creative process to now got to think about marketing a lot to get those things out. Got to finish the edit of the Rabavania World Primer so that I can get that over to Brianna to start layout. So that's the next big creative thing. Instead of the next creative writing thing, it needs to be the editing on that so that I can get that out, get that to Brianna. Then I need to finish the beat sheet of the Rabavania script, and then I'm going to go in that and get that done. Get that finished because the time has come for that. The time has come for that, and that's not going to be easy. That's going to be a deep dive into From Where Dreams Come From, but it's time. It's time to get it done. I know the story, so that's where we are. Lots going on in the comments section. Good morning, JDN, JDM. Good morning. Tador? I have no idea what's going on. Yes, that was a very interesting and probably controversial chapter. It was. Good morning, Zero the Blade. James says, I have much to say about this chapter, but I get what point he's I get what he's saying in the context of the main point that he's driving at. Those last two sentences are empirically true, however. This is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Yeah, okay. Sable got him. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. All right, let's go over to the World of Ice and Fire. We bring up the auxiliary camera. Go, auxiliary camera. Let's see what this book is. I barely even opened it. Once I realized I had bought the wrong one. But it still looked cool. So I think that it's like basically a world book without bothering with any of the role-playing stuff. Like I think it's like basically what we would call a campaign guide if it were actually made for role-playing games. I think that's what it looked like. So you can do this as far as world building too. I guess if you get popular enough, you don't even have to worry about making the game. You can just make of course, there are, of course, other publishers that put out the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing games. But I think this is just just stuff about the world. The never-before-seen history of Westeros and the land beyond, with hundreds of pages of all-new material from George R.R. Martin. I think that's why I thought I was buying the Book of Ice and Fire. If the past is a prologue, then George R.R. Martin's masterwork, the most innovative and entertaining fantasy saga of our time, warrants one hell of an introduction. At long last, it has arrived with the World of Ice and Fire. This lavishly illustrated volume, featuring more than 170 original pieces of full-color art, is a comprehensive history of the Seven Kingdoms, providing vividly constructed accounts of the epic battles, bitter rivalries, and darling rebellions that led to the events of A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's Game of Thrones. In a collaboration that's been years in the making, Martin has teamed up with Elio M. Garcia Jr. and Linda Antonsen, the founders of the renowned fan site Westeros.org, perhaps the only people who know the world almost as well as its visionary creator. Collected here are all the accumulated knowledge, scholarly speculation, and inherited folk tales of maesters and septons, magi and singers. It's a chronicle which stretches from the Dawn Age to the Age of Heroes, from the coming of the first men to the arrival of Aegon the Conqueror, from Aegon's establishment of the Iron Throne to Robert's Rebellion and the fall of the Mad King, Aerys II Targaryen, which has set into motion the present-day struggles of the Starks, Lannisters, Baratheons, and Targaryens. The definitive companion piece to George R.R. Martin's dazzling conceived universe, The World of Ice and Fire is indeed proof that the pen is mightier than a storm of swords. And it's got one of the padded, cushy covers. Textured cover right there with the three-headed dragon, but also a cushy kind of cover here. Oh, Michael says this, all or nothing, fundamentalism, progressivism is itself limiting and anti-art. Not as innovative as this claims. Let's see. So I guess this is the point right here. James says, it is. I always find it weird saying a specific type of person cannot do art. Olin Butler does something similar, and I disagreed with him too. Right. You're right. Dragonstone. Pretty cool. Now, see, this is published by No, see, this says published in the United States by Bantam Books, an imprint of Random House, a division of Random House. Okay, but up here, over here, it says Fantasy Flight Games, and it's got Fantasy Flight up here. So Fantasy Flight Games is one of the world's leading publishers of hobby games, known for the quality of its components and its innovative gameplay. Fantasy Flight Games immerses players in the world of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire with such titles as A Game of Thrones, the board game 2nd edition, and A Game of Thrones, the card game. See Fantasy Flight Games. So does this mean that this book was created by Fantasy Flight, but then put out by others? See, it's got the Bantam logo over here. But I don't see... But I guess so. Why else would they have that there? So what's in here? We got preface, ancient history, the reign of the dragon, the Targaryen kings, the fall of the dragons, the glorious reign, the seven kingdoms, beyond the sunset kingdom, and then afterwards in appendixes. All right, let's see. Preface. It is said with truth that every building is constructed stone by stone, and the same may be said of knowledge, extracted and compiled by many learned men, each of whom builds up the works of those who preceded them. When one of them does not know, is known to another, No, what? Oh, excuse me. What? What one of them does not know is known to the other, and little remains truly unknown if one seeks far enough. Now I, Maester Yandel, taking my turn as mason, carving what I know to place one more stone on the great bastion of knowledge that I have built over centuries, both within and without the confines of the citadel, a bastion raised by countless hands that came before, which will no doubt continue to rise with the aid of countless hands to come. I was a foundling from my birth in the 10th year of the reign of the last Targaryen king, left on a morning in an empty hall in the scribe's hearth, where acolytes practiced the art of letters for those who have need. The course of my life was set that day when I was found by an acolyte who took me to the seneschal of that year, Archmaester Edgarin. Edgarin, whose ring and rod and mask were silver, looked upon my squalling face and announced that I might prove of use. When first told this as a boy, I took it to mean he foresaw my destiny as a maester. Only much later did I come to learn from Archmaester Ambrose that Aragon was writing a treatise on the swaddling of infants and wished to test certain theories. But inauspicious as that may seem, the result was that I was given the care of servants and received occasional attention from maesters. I was raised as a servant myself among the halls and chambers of libraries, and was given the gift of letters by Archmaester Walgrave. Thus did I come to know and love the citadel and knights of the mind who guarded its precious wisdom. I desired nothing more than to become one of them, to read of far-off places and long-dead men, to gaze at the stars and measure the passing of seasons. And so I did. I forged the first link of my chain at 3 and 10, and the other links followed. I completed my chain and took oaths in the 9th year of the reign of King Robert, the first of his name, and found myself blessed to continue at the citadel to serve the archmaesters and to aid them in all that they did. It was a great honor, but my greatest desire was to create a work of my own, a work that humbled but lettered men might read, and read to wives and children, so they would know of great things, good and wicked, just and unjust, great and small, and grow wiser as I had grown wiser amidst the learning of the citadel. And so I set myself to work once more at my forge, making new and notable materials around the masterworks of the long-dead maesters who came before me. What follows herein sprang from that desire, a history of deeds gallant and wicked, peoples familiar, strange, and lands near and far. Okay, all right. So I didn't know that's obviously an in-universe text, but I guess this whole book is an in-universe text. I talked about that on the Table Talk world building stream. I'm a big fan of that technique. I didn't know that this was supposed to be, I guess then this whole thing is supposed to be a in-universe text. Let's see. Robert Owen Butler was stating the latter. I do have to admit that Pressfield seems to be stating the former, though. James says, it's a pretty great looking book. We actually have this one in the house. I bought it for Candace years ago. She quite likes the Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, that did take a while. Yeah, James says, we talked about Butler for 4-ish hours, and we still have more to say. That's certainly worth something. Oh, you didn't? Well, let's see what's in here. Let's see. So is all of this in universe? Like this talks about the archives of the Citadel contain a letter from Maester Aemon sent in the early years of the reign of Aegon V, which reports on an account from a ranger named Redwyn, written in the days of King Doran Stark. It recounts a journey to Lord Point and the frozen shore, which is claimed that the ranger and his companions fought giants and traded the children of the forest. Aemon's letter claimed that he had found many such accounts, and his examinations of the archives of the Watch at Castle Black, and considered them credible. I've always thought that the main geography of Westeros and Essos here. Sotheros has a strange look. But you know, it's what did I find out? What did I find out? Is it the UK inverted over here, or flipped east to west? I don't know how I noticed that, and then enlarged, of course. Lynn says an in-universe approach means the narrator can be fallible, and you can hand wave to changes to canon later if you have to. Exactly, exactly. But anyway, I still think that's kind of a strange geography for some reason. The coming of the first men. The age of heroes and the long night. Though the Citadel has long sought, so he inverts things like the season is taking a long time. So the seasons go over years instead of years going over seasons. This says, though the Citadel, it may be these areas that are in universe. Though the Citadel has long sought to learn the manner by which it may predict the length and changes of seasons, all efforts have been confounded. Septim Barth appears to argue in a fragmentary treatise that the inconsistency of the seasons was a matter of magical art rather than of trustworthy knowledge. Maester Nichols' The Measure of the Days, otherwise a laudable work which containing much of use, seems influenced by this argument. Based upon his work on the movement of stars in the firmament, Nicole argues unconvincingly that the seasons might once have been a regular length, determined solely by the way the globe faces the sun in its heavenly course. The notion behind it seems true enough, and the lengthening and shortening of days, if more regular, would lead to more regular seasons. But he could find no evidence that such was ever the case beyond the most ancient of tales. I like that picture right there. Those are good Targaryens. No, it is. Yes. Yeah, right. It's the UK in a different orientation, but it's like bigger than South America or something like that. It goes from permafrost in the north to desert in the south. Right. So Michael says, having read both Wild Cards and Ice and Fire, that Martin seems to have a particular disdain and low view of people and humanity. Huh. Oh, George R. R. Martin is absolutely a misanthrope. Huh. You can glean that just from watching interviews with him. RPG with DBJ. Hey, DBJ. Good to see you. Welcome. I find it amusing when fans argue over facts in the series, as all the info comes from unreliable narrators, including the Maesters. Well, then there is something to argue over, because if it were just the facts... Now, I think that's also actually another advantage of unreliable narrators, is that it gives people a lot to discuss. But you've got to be able to set up the story so that you can discuss things and actually just figure out what might be coming. A problem is if you set it up so that people are supposed to discuss and talk about things, and then you go off in a completely different direction, that where the direction you went didn't actually depend on the previous facts. People are going to stop. People are going to stop caring, because they're like, no, wait a minute. You would put all these clues and that we were supposed to sort out and figure out, and then none of them mattered. And then people get really upset with that. I think that's one of the reasons that people dropped the Song of Ice and Fire and a Game of Thrones especially after that last episode. But I think people got talking about it again with the Song of Ice, or the House of the Dragon. 1,000 ships. Yeah, I want to say that I've also seen where George R. R. Martin didn't appear to really understand the size of things in Westeros, because he said was looking at the size of the wall in the TV show, and somebody was saying, he said, "Well, why did you make it so big?" But it's smaller in the TV show than it is in the movies, in the books. So it's like a fraction of its size, and it's of course just gigantic in the TV show. And yeah, the Seven Kingdoms are like larger than South America. So that is a huge area that they reign over with medieval technology, because it's wasting their time, right? Yeah, talking about people get real invested in stuff, and it's great when you create something that people can get very invested in. Now, I think George R. R. Martin himself knows that, and the books still do. Even though, yes, not only are they taking a long time to be published, but they just took a long time. Somebody, right? Lynn says somebody somewhere once called the Targaryens the elves of the setting. Sable says, if you write yourself into a corner so badly that you start the prequel before finishing the established series, you're doing something wrong. James says, House the Dragon seems to be well loved. We're eventually going to have to give it a watch, see if it sticks. Right, yes. James, Michael says, House the Dragon has the guys that were supposed to do the Conan series for Amazon. Right, right. So the drama there was that Amazon was going to have Conan, and it was developed by the people who ended up going on to do the House of the Dragon, but Conan got canceled. They decided not to do Conan, and they did the whatever name of that was the Middle Earth Amazon series. I can't even remember the name of it. Oh, Rings of Power. So Amazon went forward with Rings of Power instead, and so after Conan got canceled, HBO picked the producers and creators of Up to do Song of Ice and Fire, to do House of the Dragon. Benjamin Decker says, Martin is best in the cynical 20s. Loses a bit once you are over 30 and see the world a bit less nihilistic and with kids and all. Just my experience, of course. Huh. I think you're talking about here. Martin is best read in your own cynical 20s. Loses a bit once you're over 30 and see the world with less nihilistic with kids and all. Well, Sable says, hasn't he never married? Doesn't have kids for sure. Maybe that's his problem. Well, who knows? Maybe that'd be my problem too then. Martin is a much better editor, wild cards, and writer and world builder. That would have been fun. I would have liked to have seen that too. I mean, maybe they'll go back and do it after the House of the Dragon. Maybe get an opportunity to. Somebody needs to pick it up. You know, there was something I was watching that was like about the history of the Conan franchise and who owns it now and who was trying to do something with it. So I suppose it was that person. It was on YouTube. It was a really interesting video with the guy who owns the rights to Conan now and what he's been trying to do with it. Which I guess a major part of that was trying to get that Amazon series made. Who is this? Above, Aegon the Conqueror in Battle. What is this one? Somebody surrendering to Aegon. Previous page. The submission of Torrhen Stark. Kind of looked like a Stark to me, yes. The king who knelt. Torrhen Stark. Get married and have kids. We can't risk you becoming a misanthrope. Yeah, I don't know what that is too. Oh, it's Yiddish. Oh, one of them has certain meanings, but it's one of them is a matchmaker. Maybe. Yeah, maybe that's what I need. And this here, the meeting between Maria Martell and Rhaenys Targaryen. The Targaryen kings. This is, so that's the Iron Throne. Okay, yeah, that's the Iron Throne. Oh, now that I don't know where it's sitting. It's not. It's in some box someplace. But that's what the miniature. There's a miniature of the Iron Throne because that's what the Iron Throne is supposed to look like. Much less in the TV show. But Simon did a miniature of the Iron Throne that looks like that, and I've got it because I backed the Song of Ice and Fire game, and that was part of the Kickstarter award. So I've got a miniature of the Iron Throne. That should be painted up sometimes and put behind me if I can find it. It's someplace, but that's pretty cool. So that was the inspiration. That image, obviously, I believe, for what Simon did, because it's supposed to be bizarre, crude, and ugly. And the throne room was massive. It goes with everything that George R. Martin does on a grand scale. But I heard him talk about that. He said, I have got a big imagination, and he wanted to write something that intentionally couldn't be filmed. Let's see. So this is Aegon the Conqueror crowned by the High Septon. Aenys the First, Maegor the First. Battle of Stonebridge. The Brides of Maegor the Cruel. Jaehaerys. Is this the king from the House of the Dragon? Could be. Yeah, it looks like it. I'm seeing some of the names here, so I believe this. Now we're in the House of the Dragon era. Again, I guess that's why I thought that some of the... No, Viserys. Now, here's Viserys. DVGA says, House of the Dragon is indeed excellent. Again, fans argue over the changes made from Blood and Ice and Fire, the prequel, prehistory, versus the televised series. The throne is also modified in the House of the Dragon. Yes. They kept the consistency, which I do like. Michael says, I would love to see HBO or Netflix take on Wild Cards. And I don't know anything about Wild Cards. I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know anything about it. Now, over here, see, when we go through, once it gets a little bit closer to time for what is it that I got? Okay, once we get a bit closer to time for the release of the second season of House of the Dragon, I want to go through it. I wasn't live streaming when the TV show was on the first time, so I'm going to do a rewatch of it. So we'll talk about that, and we'll probably do a table talk of it. But then we can also look at this. So this is what I meant to buy when I bought this one. This is The Rise of the Dragon, an illustrated history of the Targaryen dynasty, Volume 1. So I believe... Am I wrong about this? I thought that in the days where dragons reigned, in this lavish visual history featuring more than 150 new full-color illustrations, is a stunning introduction to House Targaryen, the the iconic family at the heart of HBO's Game of Thrones prequel series, The House of the Dragon. Yeah, okay, so I guess this is what this is. The Rise of the Dragon, this book is called, I thought I was going to pull this off the shelf and see this was called the song, what is it, well, I don't even, now, somebody in the comments knows, because this says, Fire and Blood, Fire and Blood. Rise of the Dragon chronicles the creation of the house, of the growth of let me start over. The Rise of the Dragon, this book here, chronicles the creation and growth of Targaryen power in Westeros, covering the history first told in George R. R. Martin's epic Fire and Blood, from Aegon Targaryen's conquest of Westeros to the infamous Dance of Dragons, the bloody civil war that nearly undid the Targaryen rule for good. So is this Fire and Blood? I thought there was an illustrated version of Fire and Blood, which has the different stories, again, from the unreliable narrators of what happened. I'm going to have to figure out what I've got. Somebody probably knows. James says, Discord watch party for the House of the Dragon. We could do that. I don't know much about the actual writing, but did Martin ever attempt any linguistic consistency with his invented names and languages? I would guess some. I don't know. I would not guess it's on Tolkien's level. Lynn says, I know that High Valyrian was expanded from a few phrases by a professional linguistic for the TV show. Good morning, Inner Light. So I don't know. I want to read Fire and Blood, and I thought this was... I thought I had here an illustrated Fire and Blood. But maybe that's not what it is. I don't know. Maybe I just bought all the wrong things. So this is the Dance of the Dragons. I'm going to skip that because we haven't gotten to the Dance of the Dragons in Fire and Ice yet. In House of the Dragon. Viserys the second, Aegon the fourth. That looks like Robert Baratheon. Well, maybe not. Nope, wrong shield. Ares the second. I do like, it's late period armor, but I think this is a good representation of the kind of armor that Martin is describing in most of it. So it's very much if you hadn't discovered gunpowder, and so you were wearing kind of the late period armor that we saw when we were talking about Dungeons and Dragons and looking through some other things, which is neat. The Fall of the Dragons. Now I guess we're getting to Robert's Rebellion right there. Dothraki was also redone by a professional linguist for the show. So sometimes it takes a village to make and ruin a work. Yeah, maybe I just bought all the wrong things. Story of my life. Do his character names have consistent regional feels, or does he just use whatever sound? No, I think that regionally they do, but also by family. And of course, by family and by region are often very much the same. I like that. The Seven Kingdoms. No, the North. Beyond the wall. So there's the wall. The Crannog men. They're weird. The Crannog men of the Neck. Last, and some might say the least of the peoples of the north are the swamp dwellers of the Neck, known as the Crannog men, for the floating islands on which they raise their halls and hovels. A small, sly people, some say they are small in stature because they intermarried with the children of the forest, but more likely it results from inadequate nourishment, for grains do not flourish amidst the fens and swamps and salt marshes of the Neck, and the Crannog men subsist largely upon a diet of fish, frogs, and lizards. They are quite secretive, preferring to keep to themselves. South of the Neck, the river folk whose lands adjoin their own say the Crannog men breathe water, have webbed hands and feet like frogs, and use poisons on their frog spears and their arrows. That last, it must be said, is true enough. Many a merchant has brought rare herbs and plants with many queer properties to the citadel, for the maesters seek out many such things to better their understanding of properties and value. But of the rest, there is no truth to it. Crannog men are men, albeit smaller than most, even if they live in a fashion unique to the Seven Kingdoms. Long ago, the histories claim the Crannog men were ruled by the Marsh Kings. Singers tell of them riding on lizard lions and using great frog spears like lances, but that is clearly a fancy. Were these Marsh Kings even truly kings as we understand it? Archmaester Erwin writes that the Crannog men saw their kings as the first among equals, who were often thought to be touched by old gods, a fact that was said to show itself in eyes of strange hues, or even the speaking with animals, as children are said to have done. Whatever the truth, the last man to be called Marsh King was killed by King Richard Stark, sometimes called the Laughing Wolf of the North for his good nature, who took the man's daughter to wife, whereupon the Crannog men bent their knees and accepted the dominion of Winterfell. In the century since, the Crannog men have become stout allies of the Starks under the leadership of the Reeds of Greywater Watch. And we're still looking for them to show up, right, in the books, because it's probably Howland Reed who knows everything that happened at the Tower of Joy. Sable says, I think he just took the names that were common to the analog cultures and misspelled them. I think he did what sounded cool. Watching the Game of Thrones opening made me wonder if the world was actually a Dyson sphere. Oh, interesting. But no, I don't think so. I think it's a planet that's a little bit larger than ours. I'm looking at Robert Baratheon, and the first name is Germanic, but the family name has a very, very classical Greek vibe to it. There's the wall. Castles of the Night Watch active. The Shadow Tower, Castle Black, now the seat of the Lord Commander of the Watch, and East Watch by the Sea. Abandoned, West Watch by the Bridge, Sentinel Stand, Grey Guard, Stone Door, Hoarfrost Hill, Ice Mark, the Night Fort, Deep Lake, Queen's Gate, which was once named Stone Gate before being renamed in honor of good Queen Alison. Oakenshield. Oh, we got Oakenshield here. Woods Watch by the Pool, Sable Hall, Rimgate, Longbarrow, Torches, and Green Guard. The Riverlands. Lords of Harrenhal. Well, this is a cool book. I don't think I would read it all the way through. Ah, the Eyrie. The Eyrie is pretty cool. The Iron Islands. Driftwood Crowns. It's like the Lannisters. There's Casterly Rock. The Reach. Well, it's a well done book, even though it wasn't what I thought I had bought. And I'm curious to know more about Fantasy Flight's participation in it. I think some of the illustrations come from, or I've seen in game work. So some of them, have crossed. Oh, and then Across the Sea. So it may be that some of it was in like the card games and stuff. So that may be why a lot of the art was commissioned. Maybe it was a great opportunity to reuse some of it. Let's see. What was the afterword? I think this is in universe. In the years since I first set pen to parchment, much has changed both in Westeros and beyond. Readers must understand that such a work as this is not the labor of a few mere weeks, or even years. The first I set the framework for this history during the peaceful years at the height of good King Robert's reign, intending to dedicate that volume to Robert and his heirs as a history to the land and to the world they inherited. But it was not to be. The death of the noble hand, John Arryn, has unleashed the madness upon the land, a madness of pride and violence. The madness has robbed the realm of Robert and his fair son and heir Joffrey. Pretenders strive to steal the Iron Throne, and disturbing rumors of dragons reborn kindle in the east. In such times of trouble, we must pray that good King Tommen shall see a long reign, and a just one, to usher us again out of the darkness and into the light. Now, Targaryen lineage. Stark lineage, Lannister lineage, the Crown lands, Targaryen, and Baratheon reign. That's it. Oh, that's nice. Well, maybe the face is a little bit strange, but neat. Art credits. Oh, so lots of different artists went into this. Oh, that's one. I believe that's what's on the cover of the role-playing game, or something close to it. And I think that's pretty neat. The Battle of the Trident and the Ruby Ford. He's about to get his breastplate cloven in. I think that's pretty neat. Let's see. What are people saying here? The opening theme and visuals are... I forget which one we were talking about. I have the LCG. Don't get out that much. I never saw Pacific Rim. I think Honest Trailers... It was Honest Trailers that called Pacific Rim the dumbest awesome movie ever. Or the most awesome dumb movie ever, whichever one is accurate. What I don't understand with Martin, why use GURPS for wildcards when it was based on characters made with Chaosium's Superworld? I'm going to have to look that up. GURPS wildcards? I think I've seen that, but I didn't connect it to George R.R. Martin. GURPS wildcards. It says it was written by John J. Miller. I mean, George R.R. Martin might have had nothing to do with what rule set is involved in. GURPS Wildcards is a complete detailed guide to the Wild Card series. You can now enter that world with ace powers of your own, written by one of the world's original Wild Cards creators. Oh, it says that it was written by one of the original Wild Cards creators. So maybe that's the person who made the call. It says it was published in 1989. is one of the earliest licensed properties produced by Steve Jackson Games. Huh. So, well, I guess that's maybe who licensed it? I'm not sure. Sable says, the book is gorgeous. I don't have enough investment in the world to ever want to pick it up. All right. Yeah, it's not what I was looking for. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. But I thought I was buying an illustrated Fire and Blood. All right. Well, I'm out of here. I've got things to do. I'm going to go see about getting everything ready for the Indiegogo for Goodnight Sword, and then also some kind of launch for the Christmas story. Wild Cards began as an anthology of books with authors who never wrote comic books in a unified world. J.R.R.M. was an editor and writer for Wild Cards. Oh, he did? Benjamin says, I remember Martin saying that he played GURPS in some interview. Huh. I didn't know that. Now, I know that he was a gamer, which is why he's got all the miniatures and stuff, which is pretty cool. All right, I got to get out of here. Things to do. Go be creative, be productive. I will not see you tomorrow. I will not see you tomorrow because I've got the art show tomorrow. My family's going to the art show, and then we're playing board games. So no morning garden in the morning. I will see everybody, that's right, on Sunday. Later, everybody. Grind on.